And good morning, Utsada, and namaste. Everyone, namaste. Welcome to Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is the weekly show that comes live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. It is a show about American Hindu issues. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact, and Hindu Pact is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, that is VHPA. I am the president of World Hindu Council of America. My name is Ajay Shah, and with me, as always, is Utsav Chakravarti. Utsada, welcome to Hindu Lounge. And, today we are all putting a tilak. What's the deal?
Namaste, Ajay Bhai, and good morning, everybody. Yes, today we have the tilak on. So obviously everybody knows the topic. And we are going to discuss in detail about the history and the social, cultural, and other religious aspects of the tilak or the bindu or the bindi or so many other names. We are going to talk about it today and what it really means. And as you know, the topic, whether it's cultural appropriation or not, if somebody wants to wear it, and we will have a long and hopefully fruitful discussion about it.
And Utsada, I think people are going to be very interested in what we have to say about about the tilak and bindi and the cultural appropriation, because we will have a unique viewpoint as we usually do, right?
As we usually do, and I think we will try to substantiate our viewpoint with information and material that hopefully will be helping people understand why we have that viewpoint. So we can dive in.
And so that why did we bring up this topic today? I want you to kind of go into a little bit about World Bindi Day. Now, this is something that's been ongoing for a couple of years. It was, conceived by a high school student actually in Atlanta, and Hindu Students Council has taken this up as a project, and now it's been ongoing for for a couple of years. And October 7th was the World Bindi Day, and so we figured, what's a better what better topic this week than to kind of go over what bindi is, what tilak is, and why is it significant for Hindus, right? So with that, Utsada, let me share my screen, and maybe we have some nice visuals and graphics and things like that. So maybe we can dive right into it. Utsada, so this is the, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I see your screen, Ajay Bhai.
Okay, great. So that this is the, tell me about a little bit about the history of bindi. Where does the word bindi come from?
Okay, so the word bindi comes from the word bindu, which means a dot. And, in the earliest representation of the word bindu comes in the Nasadiya Sukta of the Rig Vedas, which is actually one of the earliest known suktas of Rig Veda. So Rig Veda is known to be one of the earliest Vedas, in fact, the first one. And within that, the Nasadiya Sukta is one of the earliest known texts. So you can imagine going back, depending on who you want to follow, Rig Veda is known to be the world's earliest known religious scripture. It is recognized by the UNESCO as the world's earliest known religious scripture. So Nasadiya Sukta is probably the earliest known religious text within that scripture. So any earliest form of human presentation on religion or dharma is, and I'm using the word religion very loosely here, because I'm speaking in English. It doesn't mean the same thing as Hindu dharma, but any earliest form of presentation on dharma, religion, is in the Nasadiya Sukta, and that is where the word Bindu comes from. So we can assume quite safely here that the practice of putting a bindi or a tilak, and we'll go into different names that are across the world we have been calling it by, goes back to the earliest known human presentation on religion or dharma. And that signifies the place it has in human depiction, human presentation of themselves. And I think, thank you for sharing the next slide.
This is the slide, and I'll make it bigger so everyone can read it. But this is a slide.
We can read it, Ajay. We can read it. Yeah.
You can read it. Okay. Good.
So this we are using several languages that are still depicting the Bindu or the Tilak. Most of these are languages from the Indian subcontinent. You can see that you can start with pot or put, which is basically means dot in Ahomia. Tip, again, literally meaning to press a dot in Bengali. And tikuli, which is again means tika or a small tilak. So all these are different language representation. In Nepalese, you can see tika. Interestingly, I didn't know what it meant in Sinhala, and it's very close to Sanskrit actually, tilakaya in Sinhala, the language spoken in Sri Lanka by the native Sri Lankans. And obviously Bindi in Punjabi, Pottu or Kumkumam in Tamil Nadu, and in Tamil and Malayalam, Bottu in Telugu, Bottu in Kannada. So there are multiple ways of presenting it, and these are just the languages that are in the Indian subcontinent. We are not even talking about how it is presented in Central Asia, historically how it was presented in Central Asia, in East Asia, all the way up to Malaysia, Indonesia, Bali, where it is still worn, and also in Africa. So we will go today into some of these photographic depictions of Tilak or Bindi or Bindu, however you want to call it, across the world, and then we'll discuss why it is what it is, and why it is actually doesn't have one single cultural significance, but actually a global dharmic significance connected to the primordial human existence. So if you go to the next slide.
This is the, yeah, go ahead.
So again, this is something that is quite well known to the people in the Indian subcontinent. But for those who are, whom this is new, the red bindi is something that was in the ancient times a symbol of offering a drop of blood, a sacrifice of blood to the deities. And in the ancient Indian society, when people got married, there was a small dot, a line drawn on the forehead as a sign of wedlock. And even today, if you go to most parts of the Indian subcontinent, Hindu women wear a symbolic sindoor as a sign of marriage, and men wear a tilak, and that is primarily to signify that they are married. And this is a practice that has been going on for thousands of years. So this is something that is very ancient and continues to be practiced. And furthermore, we will be talking about Ajay bhai, the different Hindu traditions and darshans and different philosophical schools and religious traditions within Hindu dharma, and how the tilak actually signifies sampradaya within the context of the larger Hindu pantheon.
And so that there are other reasons also why this is used, right? I mean, when people are when during the marriage, uh, when the bridegroom is invited to the marriage hall, they put on the they put on the tilak or chandan or a bindi on them. When in a lot of traditions and lots of parts of India, when when a guest comes home, uh, they welcome them by putting a bindi or a tilak on them. And of course, all the murtis have also, all the murtis have some tilak on them. So it is not just a something that is put on um, during a particular, for married women or or any of that, but it has a uh, much broader prevalence. And so that this is a little graphic that shows a sadhu, uh, covering the forehead with chandan, which is sandalwood paste, and mixed with turmeric. But also, it also shows a tilak. But then people say, "Hey, what's the difference between bindi and tilak?" Now there are various explanations, but they're fairly similar. But one of the differences between the tilak or tilak, as it's properly called in Sanskrit, is always applied with a paste or a powder. But bindi can be applied, bindi may be a paste or a jewel. Actually, you can use a jewel for a bindi. And bindi is a lot of times a decorative or makeup kind of item, whereas tilak is generally a religious or a spiritual connotation. So that is the difference between tilak and bindi. And tilak is also, when people are victorious in a war, or but they're going for a war rather, all the warriors put on a tilak with their own blood, right?
Yeah, I mean that is also a cosmetic cosmetic difference in modern times, but it originates in the same tradition, in the same concept. So there is actually no real difference between. It's just how you present it, and it's a cosmetic presentation. Just like there are different forms of tilaks, different shapes of them, which over times, when humans evolve, the socio-political, cultural traditions add layers of intricacies on basic ideas, and those basic ideas remain the same, but the layers of intricacies and detailing that comes on top of it are human modifications, human innovations, and in a way identifications, because humans are always very happy. And this is the unique thing about Hindu dharma: it doesn't enforce one single way of human presentation, because it, in its inherent nature, Hindu dharma gives the freedom of all its practitioners to have different likes and dislikes. So within a larger framework, it offers diversity of presentations. That is very unique about Hindu dharma, and that you can see even in the way bindi or tilak is presented.
Yeah,
So
that's a really good. So that this particular slide just shows the kind of tilaks, and there are really dozens, and we have just picked a few. But you can see that the Vaishnavas, or the Shaivites, and Ganpatyas, Shaktas, they all have different ways of putting a tilak. So, for example, the Shaivites make usually three horizontal lines across the forehead, and they usually do it out of vibhuti. Actually, that is the ashes of made that is generated during the havan or homa. So that is the Shaivite sign. Vaishnavas, on the other hand, use vermilion clay or sandalwood paste, or a paste rather made of vermilion uh, clay and sandalwood, and they put two vertical lines which may be connected at the bottom, uh, which indicates the feet of Bhagavan Vishnu. And
yeah, and just wanted to add the Shaiva tradition is called Tripundra, which is the three lines growing across. So that's it's in Sanskrit it's called Tripundra, and so this is also something I wanted to add while we show this slide, that the use of the material and the shape, it has deep rooted meanings in them, and you can literally write a thesis on each of these Tilak traditions, and how and why the choice of material and the shape have emerged, because these things have emerged over, I would say, thousands of years of practices, and in a way form a discipline of their own. You could meet a person from Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition in the middle of Russia, and you can identify that person with his tilak, and that is literally, it's a very unique way of, it's a very unique and non-invasive way of presenting one's self and one's philosophy. This is again another thing unique about Hindu dharma. Unlike enforcing our ideas on other people by taking over the pulpit, the bully pulpit, Hindus present themselves and the ideas they represent and the diversities of ideas they represent, not by enforcing themselves on other people or invading other people's ideas and thoughts using the bully pulpit, but by actually putting a small symbol of who they represent within themselves on their forehead. And that's another way of, you know, these are very subtle and sophisticated ways. People, growing up in a secular India, I used to see people ridicule people who wear a tilak. But if you really look into it, these are very highly sophisticated ways of presenting one's ideas and identities without being too invasive. And I think that is the uniqueness. And we can have a whole show, and actually a whole show on each of these symbols and how they evolved and what are the traditions. We even didn't even discuss the tantric traditions that have their own tilaks and their own practices. So that's another show in itself.
Correct. So that it is significant for Jains, and Jains put usually a sandalwood paste on their forehead, like I'm doing right now. And it's significant for Sikhs as well, because a lot of the Sikh gurus wore and we'll have some pictures to show after this. But even Sikh gurus had ceremonies, for tilak ceremonies, for example. And I have some pictures of that as well. So that but before that, I want to just point out one little thing, and this is a latest Pew survey that came out in June of this year. That's just a couple of months ago, actually. And if you look at this Pew survey, you will see that it is the survey about religions in India, and you can see that while 84% of Hindu women wear bindi, 18% of Muslim women, 22% of Christian women, 29% of Sikh women, and 78% of Buddhist women wear bindi. They say not available for Jains, but I can tell you it's pretty much the same. 85 to 100% of
Yeah,
Hindu
yeah,
women.
it would be the same or higher
It could be the same or higher as
for
the
Hindu. Yeah.
as the Hindu, because that kind of fine graining usually doesn't happen in India that the Pew has done. So that this is something that uh, as much as you can say that, well, it's a Hindu tradition, it is people who are following the Hindu Sanskriti or Hindu cultural practices, whether they're Muslims or Christians or whoever. They all uh, on a daily basis they put bindi or tilak.
Which is a point we would be making eventually to highlight why wearing a bindi is not cultural appropriation. In fact, it is an encouragement to embrace.
Don't give away the, we are holding the audience for this secret. Don't give away yet. Go one step at a time. Otherwise, the audience will say, oh, "Okay, now we know what Utsada is
No,
going to say,"
no, no,
and
the
they'll leave.
audience,
No, no, no.
we
What
want to
I'm
we want to clue in the audience onto different
No,
aspects.
just say that this is one of the things that is going to make our decision. It's one of the factors leading up to our decision, and let's leave everyone in suspense. Let's build up to it. So that go to the next slide. All right, tell us now. You've done quite a bit of research about the global use of bindis, right? So let's talk about that.
So if you look at this is a artwork from it's actually carved in stone from a stupa. So primarily built during the Buddhist period from the 2nd century BCE, which is most likely the period when the Mauryans were in India, around the time of King Ashoka, the earliest known presentation of Buddhist art. And in that, you can see the lady here with beautifully braided hair, as well as a lotus shaped tilak on her forehead. So you can see that even within Buddhist traditions, and you can see that even in the survey later on by the Pew survey that Ajay showed just now, tilak and bindi and representations on the forehead were very, very much prevalent. In fact, they are no different from Hindu tradition in that aspect. All Hindu and Jain traditions in that aspect. So this I just wanted to show how prominently the bindi and the lotus, it's actually in the form of a lotus, is shown in this particular stone artwork carving from 2nd century BC, which is the earliest known Buddhist presentation out there.
And this is not like Mauryans or anyone.
This is during King Ashoka's time, most likely. This is during King Ashoka's time or right after that.
Maybe also that they just appropriated it from the Vedic Hindus.
I won't use the word appropriation, because when Buddha came, Buddha actually didn't even complain. He didn't distinguish himself from Vedic Hindus in any form or shape. It is only much later.
Or should we say the Aryans?
Oh my God! Now you're just talking about, you're repeating the woke.
I'm just building up to the big suspense, and I'm just kind of needling you and provoking you a little bit. So
if you look up the internet, this the crazy wokes and the anti-Hindu intellectuals out there, they will be producing a dime a dozen articles probably every year on how every aspect of Hindu, from bindi to tilak to you name it, like anything that has to do with Hindu, they will try to reverse engineer a content which will say that it is racist and it's a domination of the Aryans over the whatever native. If they are from Hyderabad, they will create a native from Hyderabad. If they are from Bengal, they will create a native from Bengal. So it's basically Aryans versus the rest. And this is literally how the folks will present it. And they get hundreds and thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in American university to write this crap. So yeah, here you go.
I got the intended result. Now you're really into this show. So tell us about the Bodhisattva from Afghanistan.
No. I was into the show before also. No. That's not.
I wanted you to be like really excited about it. Now you're really into it. See, I just had to. I know the trigger words here. So go for it.
No. I knew now. Now I'll be talking more than you. So. So no, this is in Afghanistan, and this is a Bodhisattva. Again, Bodhisattva, for those who don't know, is in fact is a presentation in the Mahayana form of Buddha traditions. Mahayana Buddhism has two main philosophical schools or sampradayas. The Mahayana tradition, which is the more widespread, more well-known, Mongolia, China, Japan, Korea. Used to be for a long period of time in northern Afghanistan, Central Asia, all the way up to Azerbaijan, versus Theravada, which is in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, some of those areas. It used to be in Bangladesh before it was converted to Islam. But so coming back to the Bodhisattva was basically in the Mahayana traditions. There was these philosophical schools believed that Buddha reincarnated and came back, even though he achieved moksha or nirvana, as they called it. Despite his enlightenment, he chose to come back and take reincarnation, which all dharmic schools, all Hindus around the world believe. Take reincarnation so that he can, bring enlightenment or moksha to other souls. So that was the way they represented Buddha's role as Bodhisattva. Theravadas don't believe in that. For them, once Buddha attained enlightenment, they have attained enlightenment. He's not coming back. But so in this, you can see this is a Bodhisattva from Afghanistan, you can see very, very prominent. And I chose this picture because among you will see a lot of presentations of Hindu dharmic and Hindu and other dharmic deities, but you will never see their eyes still intact, because many a times during Islamic invasions and all, these used to be precious stones in the eyelids and in the bindis, and the first thing these Muslim rulers would do, or whoever was vandalizing and desecrating the deities would do, is to pluck out the precious stones from the eyes and the bindis. So in this particular image, you will see that the eyes are still there, and it survived the loot and the desecration in Afghanistan, and it's really unique in that way. You can see the eyelids, the eyeballs, which is a precious stone. I think it would be jade most likely, but you can also see there was a huge tilak or bindi, however you want to call it, on the forehead. Again, a precious stone that was plucked out, and that's, that I just wanted to show that image. Next slide, Ajay.
Yeah. All right. So I put this slide because this is the slide that shows that not only in Bharat or in India is Bindi prevalent, but this is a picture of a dancer from Bali, and you can see that the dancer has the Bindi or a tilak on his forehead. And so, not just in India, but wherever the um Hindu Sanskriti is prevalent, the Bindi or tilak is prevalent as well. And that is what this picture is from Bali, and these are the people who are native to Bali. They've never been to India, but the traditions, the Hindu Sanskritic traditions, prevail, or at one time prevailed, large parts of the world, and especially in the Southeast Asia region. Also, that this is the picture of Guru Nanak with Vaishnava Tilak. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So if you close in into the images, you will see. I don't know if you can zoom in,
Fine.
but you will see actually that everybody there, not just Guru Nanak, everybody in that image has a tilak on, and not just any tilak on. It's a Vaishnava Tilak. So I'm gonna point out to you how it looks, and so you can see obviously Guru Nanak with the stick in his hand. Can you see the top image? Yeah, that's Guru Nanak with the stick in his hand. He's wearing a tilak, and everybody else around him, they're all presented in a side silhouette. But if you look closely into these images, all of them, you will see at least one line on the forehead, which is half of the Vaishnava Tilak. We had shown you the Vaishnava Tilak before. So all of them actually have a Vaishnava Tilak, including Mardana, okay, who was actually, who did Ghar Wapsi, as we call it today, from Muslim Islam to in those days what would be called Hindu traditions. Today Sikhs are considered separate, and some Sikhs may take offense in that, but I'm just presenting a historical painting, so I hope nobody feels offended. This is from 1780, a depiction, a miniature painting depicting Guru Nanak, as you can see, with Vaishnava Tilak on his forehead. And this is something very much present in until the Khalsa Panth arrives, when Sikh gurus actually embraced Shakta traditions more, along with the Vaishnava traditions. So there was, because they were dealing with the context of the times, and they were militarily responding, since the Khalsa Panth came, to the Islamists of their times. Not very unlike the Bajrang Dal of today, I would say. They were actually embracing Shakta traditions. And if you see the flag of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, in fact, we should have shown that. I will show it at another show. It has Devi Durga, and these are Navratri, so it's probably contextual.
I got this picture. I don't know if you saw this, but this is actually the one which shows the Vaishnava Tilak.
This is no, even in the previous one it does. Even
Yes,
in the previous
this
one,
is
I
actually
put this one.
zoomed in on it. This is zoomed in on it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is not the same picture. This is a different picture, and this
Yeah,
is
it's a
not so.
different picture. It's a
Yeah.
different picture from
So the right,
1780.
it is not from 1780. I think that's the I left that site, the text there by mistake. But this is also a depiction of Guru Nanak from a later period. But here also you can see the very clear Vaishnava tilak on his forehead. So this is also probably from a time when Khalsa Panth was already in existence, because now you can see a more militarized Guru Nanak as well, a militarized depiction of Guru Nanak as well. So you can see a khanjar also with him in those. Again, if you go to the next one, I think
Yeah,
this is
these are the two that I picked up. One is Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, again wearing a red color sindoor as the tilak. And the other one is actually very interesting. It's Guru Arjan Dev Ji's tilak ceremony itself.
correct, correct. So as I was pointing out before, once Khalsa Panth came into existence and the gurus were actually physically responding to the Islamists, the practice of for Shakta tradition actually became part of these the Sikh practices, and therefore you will see that in Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's head you have a Shakta red tilak rather than a haldi or a chandan tilak, which is a Vaishnava tilak. So you can see that slight difference in presentation, because by Guru Tegh Bahadur's time, Shakta traditions were very much embedded in the practice of Sikh Panth.
But the concept of wearing a tilak, the practice of wearing a tilak,
Very much embedded. And if you show this to today's, if you go back the slide again, if you show this to today's, minuscule number of Sikh separatists that are very vocal in Canada, UK, and America, the Khalistanis, the Pakistani sponsored separatists, you will be appalled at the disdain they have for tilak and all these things, because they have been so, ironically, they have been so tragically, they have been so Islamized by the Pakistani propaganda. So here actually I wanted to show something from Pakistan, and it is from modern times. It is from the still practicing Vedic Kalash tribe, which is very, very small tribe. Only a couple of thousand survive. The rest have all been converted to Islam. But this is called the Kalash. It's in the northwest, frontier, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, border of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa with Swat, that area in northern, what is present in northern Pakistan, close to the Afghanistan border, actually close to the Kashmir border also, not very far from there. The Kalash community still practices Vedic traditions, not converted to Islam yet, are facing a lot of pressure to convert, both by Christians and Muslims. And they have a bindi, as you can see in the traditional photograph, and they do worship deities like Indra. So early Vedic deities like Indra is still worshipped among these people. So you can go to the next one. This is actually, believe it or not, is from Africa, and it is I just want to depict the practice of bindi in Africa as well, because as much as Africa is today a battleground between radical Islamists versus Christians, both trying to compete with each other, and actually they have already done the damage mostly in the last century, in the 20th century, there are still surviving groups and tribes of people connected to Mother Earth, and still maintaining many of the early pre-Christian and pre-Islamic traditions, and the practice of putting bindi and tilak is very much still prevalent in these communities. It's going away very fast. Eventually it will die out because there is nobody to protect them. They will be digested within the larger Christian and Islamic traditions and eventually lost. This is another picture from Africa. Again, both those pictures I showed are from Central East Africa, so Kenya and that region these photographs are from. And again, you can see a very clear depiction of, I lost it. Yeah, so very clear depiction of tilak wearing among African tribes.
And in Christianity, I mean, there is Ash Wednesday, right, where people do put ash on the forehead. So it's not that practice is not prevalent. I think
So since you brought up Ash Wednesday, you know what It's a Catholic practice,
It
and
is a Catholic practice.
it's not. It's not as common amongst Protestants, I
But
believe.
it is not. But Protestant being a later day,
So
faith.
I'll tell you something interesting about this practice, that Greek sculptures in Europe. There was during the Dark Ages where Europe was not Christianized, and they were actually enforcing Christianity amongst Europeans through violence, in some areas through actual torture, and burning of women on the stake. There were Greek sculptures where these Catholic monks would go, and if they had bindi on their forehead, because Greeks, like in other ancient traditions, used to have also put occasionally represent their, and because they interpollinated with Hindus a lot during the Alexandrian period, they used to put a bindi on their sculpture's forehead as well. So during Catholic times, these monks would go and draw a cross. So they will vandalize the statue, and instead of the bindi, they would put a cross on the forehead and turn it into a depiction of the ash when it's the cross.
And so the from this common a depiction, we now come to the other. Let's talk a little bit about the. Let's talk a little bit about how the bindi came to be an object of ridicule in United States and other parts of the West. And let's talk about that a little bit. So that I'm going to share um, a slide which actually depicts what happened. And I was in US at the time. So that I came to US in early 80s. So I've lived here, pretty much most of my life now over here, and this is embedded in my memories forever. In the 1980s, I believe it was in mid 80s, an organization emerged in America. It was called in New Jersey, actually, called Dotbusters, and the Dotbusters organization was specifically targeting Hindus, and they called Hindus in a very racially insensitive way. They called them dot heads or dots, and now that ridicule led to attacks on Hindus, and actually one person died. So this particular gang of criminals was called Dotbusters, and this is a news item that appeared in a local newspaper, and it said, "I'm writing about your article during July about the abuse of Indian people." This is one of the gangsters writing. "Well, I'm here to state the other side. I hate them. If you had to live near them, you would also. We are an organization called Dot Busters. We have been around for 2 years. We will go to any extreme to get Indians to move out of Jersey City. If I'm walking down the street and I see a Hindu and the setting is right, I will hit him or her. We planned some of our most extreme attacks, such as breaking windows, breaking car windows, and crashing family parties. We use the phone books and look up the name Patel. Have you seen how many of them are there? Do you even live in Jersey City? Do you walk down a Central Avenue and experience what it's like to be near them? We have and just don't want it anymore. You said that they will have to start protecting themselves because the police cannot always be there." This is 80s, not that long ago. "They will never do anything. They are weak race physically and mentally. We are going to continue our way. We will never be stopped." So that a letter from a gangster belonging to Dot Busters, and this resulted in massive protests by Indians in Jersey City, and they stood up, they fought back, and you can go to Jersey City today, and you can see the Hindus over there live with pride, with dignity, and with the tilak and bindis on.
So I have to say this, Ajay bhai, and this is like horrific to see that in the 1980s this was being written, and it was perfectly fine for people to write these things, and for newspapers to actually print it. This is just, in a way, it's good because it's now on records and we can go back to it and show it. But the second half of that letter almost sounds like Field Marshal Ayub Khan's speech on during the start of the 1965 war. They will never do anything. They are weak race physically and mentally. We are going to continue our way. This is literally Ayub Khan's speech from 1965. The second half of this about quote unquote Hindus. So I think there was a general.
You think, yeah, no, okay, go ahead. Sorry, finish
So
up, please.
please go ahead.
I was going to say that you would think that this is 1980s, but let me show you something that is not 1980s and take get your take on this. So that this is I'm going to share with you an article that appeared only about 3 years ago, I think. So that this is in 2017. So let me share this article with you. And so the attack against Hindus have continued. As you know, there was a shooting in Kansas in 2017 where a Hindu immigrant from Telangana was killed. And instead of sympathizing, you know, for the attack that happened and the Hindu who was killed and his family, this writer, Bobbins Abraham, writing in India Times, which is a publication of, I believe, Times of India, if I'm not mistaken, he writes the following. Okay, and just take a look at it and see. This is the amount of hatred people have against Hindus. This article says right-wing groups wanted Hindus in US to wear tilak to protect them. Here is why it is not just stupid, but dangerous too. Utsada, if you have ever seen the extreme case of victim blaming, this is it. Okay. Here is a Hindu who gets killed. He was not even wearing a tilak or a bindi. He was sitting in a bar. He gets killed. And Bobbins Abraham writes in India Times saying that the wearing of the bindi is a stupid idea because it is dangerous and it will not protect. Instead of saying that people should be able to freely practice their cultural practices in a land of the free, that is America, they should go into hiding, shed their cultural underpinnings and the practices, and people who are advocating for Hindus are stupid. Okay, so here is what he writes. The Kansas shooting incident has shaken the Indian community in the US unlike anything. And given the rise in hate crimes in the country in the recent times, many fear that the community will face more such attacks. And then he goes on to say that with this in mind, after the murder of Hyderabad Techie, the Telangana Telugu Association, TATA, has advised people to communicate in English in public places and to avoid any misunderstanding by the local Americans. That itself is questionable. They should not be doing that. And doing that is a sign of cowardice rather than and not standing up for yourself. Uh,
There are so many things wrong in this. Not only is the author, and this is actually being published in an Indian newspaper. That's the level of quote
India
unquote
Times.
secularization, mainstream Indian newspaper. Yeah, that India has gone through. How sad it is.
But
He's not only saying that Hindus have to stop wearing bindi or showing anything out there
that is the next
that
paragraph.
but he's also adding that these are actually right-wing Hindus. So you are not only a victim. He's not only victim shaming, but he's also calling them right wing. Look at the irony of it. He doesn't have the courage or the ability or the intention, this Abraham fellow, to actually even call the attackers by any other name other than hate groups.
But we're coming to that. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking about, Tata is not, the Telangana Association of North America is also not innocent in this. They're saying do not speak Telugu. Speak in English and avoid controversy and basically shed your cultural moorings in order to blend in. But look at this guy. Now this is the part that I think so that you were referring to. While it is a practical solution derived by people who have been living in the US and know the situation there, some Hindu right wing groups in India had their own advice to make American Hindus safe. Men should wear tilak and women should wear bindi on their forehead to reflect their identity. Uh, and then he goes on to say, this seems to be an outcome of the reports that the Kansas attackers shot at the Indian techie, mistaking him to be Iranians. But if anything, it is far from reality and it's dangerous, making them only a target easily identifiable to potential attackers. And then he goes on to make his other points. So that now
Or
I'll take a comment about
make
victim
his other
shaming
broad points. So
and other
this is
things.
probably one of the few articles that I have seen which is there could not have been a more incoherent anti-Hindu rant with illogical, stringing up of paragraphs than this article that I have seen. And the fact that Times of India or India Times, whoever their parent organization is, actually published it, shows the level of either lack of due diligence or just pure ignorance, or if for lack of better explanation, pure hatred that these media houses have. Like, he's saying that the guy who was shot because they mistook him to be an Iranian. Then he's also saying that therefore he should not be calling himself a Hindu so that they can mistake them even more. So there is a fundamental gap in the logic here to begin with in the entire conversation. Then he blames the victims and calls them right-wing just because they are practicing their own faith. And then he goes on and absolves the attackers by actually victim shaming further. So, everything that could be wrong with that article is wrong. And the guy should be probably in prison for spreading hate himself.
Let me share with you now the ridicule of people who are wearing bindis in American popular culture. So this is from a very popular American TV show. Okay, and you know the show, you watch the show. Maybe you can talk to us about this. But let me share with you and see if you can hear the audio. That's always a little bit of a challenge.
I can't hear the audio, Ajay.
Okay. All right. Hold on. So I have to share with audio. Let me give me 1 second. So that this is a very interesting clip. I wish we can share it with audio, because sharing without audio won't do the trick. If I can, yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't. With the window, oh yeah, because on a Mac, Utsada, it will not let me share with the audio. So maybe if you don't mind, you may have to share this, because I just remember the FAQ of the streaming service we are using. If you're using a non-Chrome application, then you cannot share the audio. So I can open this up in my Chrome browser and share it, but otherwise, if you can share this video, it is very illuminating of the times we live in. And I'll stop my share. I've stopped my share. So can you please share these two videos that are coming up next?
Certainly, let me do that, Ajay bhai, and I will hold on just a minute. I'm gonna share the screen. Just 1 minute. Can you see my screen? Then you can if you allow me to share, then I will be able to. It's showing up on your,
Oh, let me turn it on.
yeah. If you turn it on, then
Yeah,
I can.
yeah. Can you make it full screen? Or
Yes, just give
yeah.
me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'll make it full screen.
And tell us what show this is.
This is the okay. So this show is called Family Guy, and Family Guy is a very, very, very popular. It almost became a cult show at one point. Adult cartoon. So it's not it's not a cartoon show that is catering to young kids, but for adults and for grown-ups. Very sarcastic, very. It ridicules American society in general and American families in general, and the so it is a qualifier is that it is a society that makes fun of, it's a show that makes fun of everybody. But on occasion it will never do that to Muslims, because they know what will happen to them if they do that to Muslims. But Hindus are low hanging fruits, so they do make ridiculous tags. So here's the show, if you can see it, Ajay bhai.
Yes,
The
I can see
pathway
it.
to enlightenment starts with an unfettered, focused mind. Look out! What are you doing?
Oh, I thought that dot on your head was from a sniper rifle.
Peter, this spot is a sacred adornment. It's a portal, an opening through which all light, goodness, rejuvenation, joy, and ecstasy may enter the human form.
A vagina?
Get out.
So I'm going to show the next one. Again, this
Yeah,
is from
please show the next one.
This is from Family Guy as well, and this is Peter Griffin's son, Stewie Griffin. The background of this character is that this character is a small child, a few months old child, but he's the most mature person in his entire family, and only he and his dog can understand each other in human language. And the dog is the most knowledgeable and mature person in the house. Everybody else in the house, all the adults, are supposedly the dumbest people. And again, sarcasm on American society in general, but I'll just go ahead with the sound of this.
You think all those chickens had to buy tickets?
I don't know, but I'm starving. What I wouldn't give right now for a big, juicy steak.
How dare you? To us, cows are sacred.
That's right. You're disrespecting our entire culture.
And why did Wes Anderson come here to make his worst movie?
Stewie, what do we do?
Quick, hit the red buttons.
Wow, that came in handy.
Yeah.
Now let's get
see
out
what
of
their
here.
wieners look like. Yeah, no, let's get out of here.
Okay, so I just wanted to. This is inappropriate in so many ways, and but because Family Guy essentially makes fun of itself also in the show. It literally shows also how Americans are dumb. So in a way, this sarcasm is not just completely inappropriate and abusive towards what Hindus are, but in a way they are also showing that most Americans are so ignorant about Hindus that this is what many of them actually think in real life, and they do, many of them think in real life, as you saw from the Dotbusters episode. But you can see the level of. One thing I wanted to note, that in the previous clip that I showed, where the guru was telling him the benefits of having an enlightened life, there was Lord Ganesha in the background, and there was also Devi Saraswati in the background that they were trying to show. So they probably did some amount of research to depict some Hindu deities in the context. But the second one is really appalling in so many ways.
So I do want to bring up a couple of quick things on this issue, because we talked about it, and this is discrimination on the basis of Bindi or Tilak in America is actually not, as it should be, is not legal. And let me share something from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that you may find interesting. This is a big enough issue that it actually, if you look at the US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they have issued a guidance document, and upon the approval of the chair of the US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, titled Religion and Your Job Rights, and it was issued on 22nd July 2016. And so they specifically cite wearing bindi at work as one of the places where people get discriminated for, one of the workplace discriminations, and how to guard against it, how to report it, and all of that. So if you look at and there's a statute involved here, and that is Title 7, 29 CFR Part 1605, and it gives an example. Archana, a student, works at a clothing store. As part of her religious beliefs, Archana wears a bindi or a red dot on her forehead. Mary, the store owner, tells her to remove that ridiculous dot. Archana explains that she wears the bindi because she is Hindu. Mary replies that wearing a red dot to show your religious belief is silly and anyone can do it. Mary draws a circle on her forehead and says, "See, Now I'm a Hindu. Over the next week, Mary hands out red dot stickers to employees and customers, telling them to put them on their foreheads because the store is offering red dot discount to Hindus. Mary arrests Archana because of her religious belief. So this is an example of discrimination based on religion and based on the cultural religious practice of putting a red dot on the forehead or bindi on the forehead. So the your I'm glad that this actually is something that made it to the EEOC document, formal document of examples of religion-based rights of the employees. So that you're on mute.
Yes, and I think that is something that is wonderful, that it's, to go from where dot busters were in Jersey City in 1980s to where we are today. It's a journey that's very positive in many ways. And I think as our show has shown, that this is practice needs to be popularized, because it, as I said in the beginning itself, it's one of the best way of self presenting oneself uniquely without actually infringing on anybody else's rights and anybody else's lives. This is my forehead. So that's why I think it's such an amazing thing, and I encourage people by choice to do what they feel is right in terms of putting bindis on.
So with that, let me introduce World Bindi Day, and here we go.
बिंदी लगाती हूँ. That my new single Bindi is releasing on 7th of October, and you all can listen to it now on all the various streaming platforms. And a special thank you to everyone who was patiently waiting for my latest song to release.
So the World Bindi Day, October 7th, just passed, and this is a significant day because for last couple of years, people have been celebrating the World Bindi Day, and they have been expressing themselves. So with that, Utsada, it is. I'll tell you towards the end of the show, after we talk a little bit more about the appropriation, I'll connect the World Bindi Day with some of the experiences that I had when I was part of the Hindu Students Council, and I will link it to World Bindi Day and Hindu Heritage Month. So you may want to wait for that little surprise that is coming up. But Utsada, before that, now is the time to talk about this part, which we have been promoting. That we are going to talk about our take on cultural appropriation for people who are wearing bindis. Now, this happened sometime in the first instance was somewhere in the mid 2000s, and then as you can see here, that in 2013, Selena Gomez was wearing a bindi, and at the MTV show, because she had a very hit, popular song, hit music video, and it started with the Indian classical music, and she was wearing a bindi, and some self-appointed, statesmen of Hindus, launched an attack on Selena Gomez, and through the years since 2013, or even a little bit before that, over the last 10 years, I would say, every time someone who is not an Indian, not a Hindu, tries to wear a bindi, is under attack for cultural appropriation. Now, also that this is strange for many, many reasons, to me at least. If you look at the if you look at the Pew research that we just showed at the beginning of the show, where a significant number of non-Hindus wear bindis. You've seen, we showed the slides where people in Africa, people who are from early days of Europe, people who are people in the Southeast Asia, many of them non-Hindus do wear Bindi and Tilak. And let us assume for a second that all of it is because of Hindu Dharma. What is wrong with that, Utsoda? Wouldn't we want people to adopt Hindu practices? What is wrong with people wearing a bindi, even if it is for a decoration or it is for as a shringar, which is adornment? What is wrong with that? Why is this cultural appropriation? It is absolutely ridiculous for some of the Hindus to, or Hindus in name only, whichever way it is, to come out and chastise everyone who is wearing a bindi or a tilak. We ought to welcome people trying to adopt our practices, even as they are on their path to learn. They're not ridiculing it, they're just wearing a bindi. She's doing namaste wearing a bindi. So now what, doing a namaste is appropriation of Indian Hindu culture? If someone is doing yoga, is it appropriation of Hindu culture? Now, if they try to say that this is not a Hindu practice, then it is appropriation of Hindu culture. But they are acknowledging it's a Hindu culture. They're doing namaste, they're wearing a bindi. Or they're wearing a bindi and not saying that this is invented in 21st century, some country in Europe or some country in South America or wherever. Then I can understand. As long as they're not saying that it was invented in last 10 years somewhere somewhere outside of Bharat and disassociating from this origin, then I can understand. But otherwise, where is the cultural appropriation here? Utsada, you're on mute.
Ajay, it brings back to my pet peeve, which is again the overextended use of the word culture by Hindus instead of dharma or religion.
Utsada, is that, or is that they're just aping the other, just the term for 21st century is cultural appropriation. So they just feel like, oh, well, why am I not using this term? Let me try to use this term.
Well, it's also something very common in the woke circles, because in woke left of Americans, they cannot talk against Christianity, they cannot talk against Islam. So what they do is they leave the big 80-pound gorillas in the room aside and target small little things to make a point and make a living out of it. Okay, so they will pick up culture because that's the easier term, and the Hindus copy them because left intellectualism amongst Hindus doesn't have anything original. It basically copies anything that happens in the Western academia and just tries to apply it as a template on the Hindu or Indian context. So because the left academia in the West has left the basic fundamental issues away, they don't want to touch the fundamental issues, which are historical, civilizational, and theological in nature. They only touch issues that they describe as cultural, which are very superficial, which keeps the conversation alive without actually addressing the problems. They have done that with the Native Americans. They've done that with African Americans. Many other communities, they have done that. And because the Hindu wokes copy them, they also use this word cultural appropriation all the time. It doesn't, in this particular context, it sounds very hollow and it is misplaced, to put it lightly.
Yeah, I think but what is disappointing to me is that many of the Hindu organizations join this, and they don't understand. I mean, they don't understand the fact that people are trying to explore, even if they think of it as exotic. Here are people who are trying to explore Hindu cultural practices. Why not invite them? I mean,
That's the point I'm trying to make, that being exotic is also a term that has been overused and misused. I would say they are being curious, and curiosity is the beginning of any journey of education, knowledge, and enlightenment. If somebody wasn't curious, they wouldn't have, when Srila Prabhupada disembarked from his ship with $10 or $8 in his pocket, a 70-something-year-old man coming from a village in Bengal to give the message of Lord Krishna and Achinta Bheda Abheda philosophy to the rest of the world, if there was no curiosity or as many people will call it, the curiosity of the exotic, we won't have had the Hare Krishna movement today, which is one of the most widespread Hindu sampradayas out there in the world. So I don't discount the value of curiosity out of exoticity, as many people will call it. It is those people who were curious in the 1970s and 80s who heard Srila Prabhupada that today are spreading the message of the Bhagavad Gita somewhere in so many places around the world. So there is nothing wrong in that at all. I would say that is perfectly fine. That kind of curiosity is something that has given legs to Hindu Dharma throughout the centuries, and that's the part I want to be clear about.
So it goes without saying that this is again another example of at the Coachella festival and the Teen Vogue, similar accusations of people wearing, especially celebrities wearing bindi.
So this is where you fall into the trap of the person who will be happiest to see these articles are the Christian missionaries and the evangelists, because you are literally playing into their hands. And I think that's why it is important for us to let the world know the value of bindi, the value of tilak, the history of it, the dharmic traditions that are connected to it, and let people practice it and bring it into their lives and embrace it and educate themselves as they go along that journey.
Yep, I agree with you. So here is the so that this is really there's the other side to this, and this is something that makes us all proud. This is Swati Mohan, and she was part of the Mars mission, and when at the Jet Propulsion Lab, she was the one who guided the Mars rover's landing, and this picture was everywhere because millions and millions of people were watching. And you can see in the background NASA and JPL, which is part of run by Caltech in Pasadena, California. And you can see that prominently, along with the mask, she is wearing a bindi, and she was expressing her Hindu identity with pride. And I want to acknowledge the role of Hindu Students Council here. So that she was an official at the Hindu Students Council where she was a student when she was a student at Cornell University. And this is the uh, you know this is the cultural and religious value that she treasures and she proudly exhibited when she was on the screen and millions of people were watching her. So I think we can be proud of the fact that someone was prominently displaying their their American Hindu identity, in an and someone who was on a very important role at that moment. So, there are your thoughts.
No, I think this is she set a template out there for people to be self-confident, and if nothing else Swati Mohan showed people, I would say mostly to Hindus, that she without saying anything, she gave an antidote to the India Times article that you showed in the beginning, that was written after the death of Mr. Kuchi Botla in Kansas. So Swati Mohan's was the silent response to that, and I think that's the power of the bindi. You don't have to say much. You just make a statement without saying anything.
Yeah, and we are very, very proud of what she did. So I want to talk about a little bit about the talk that I actually gave on the on the World Bindi Day. So I was invited to speak, and so that this is the Hindu Heritage Month, and for a second I'm just going to focus, and I'm going to talk about focus on Hindu Heritage Day and how Hindu Heritage Day and the World Bindi Day, Hindu Heritage Month rather, sorry, October 2021 being Hindu Heritage Month and World Bindi Day falling on that, what is the significance of that? And I just want to focus on that for just 2 minutes. And I think you may, I want to get your take on it. So that I want to start with an experience that a college student in 1990s related to me. This was at a Hindu Students Council camp. So this student came to me and he said that when I was in high school, this is in early 90s or late 80s, when I was in high school, a few of the college students gathered, some of us Hindu students, and called us to the gym. We've all went there. They lined us up as an act of bullying, and they said, now let us connect the dots. Okay, so that they said, let us now connect the dots. This is the way to ridicule the Hindu students. So this month, so that as we are observing the very first Hindu Heritage Month, we are saying that, look, this is a new Hindu festival for Hindus. We have had spiritual festivals, like the one that's going on right now is Navratri. It's a spiritual festival that is fun. So we have had spiritual festivals that are fun, like Navratri, where many of us dance late into the nights, and Holi, which is filled with colors and water balloons. We have festivals where we contemplate the deeper meaning of life. Hindu Heritage Month will incorporate all of these major festivals, but really it is a lot more than that. Hindu Heritage Month, it is the first festival for our newly connected world. It is not just a festival for Hindus, but it's also a festival for those who want to get to know Hindus, get to know Hindu Dharma, and get to know Hindu Sanskriti or Hindu culture. Okay. It is a festival about the past achievements of the Hindus in the fields of art, music, architecture, science, medicine, and technology, and entrepreneurship, and of course, spirituality. It is a festival to renew our pledge to Dharti Mata, Mother Earth, and our environment. It is a festival about exceptional future that lies ahead for Hindus who are free after 1,000 years of slavery. So there's been 1,000 years of slavery, and Hindu Heritage Month celebrates that freedom. Hindu Heritage Month is a festival for Hindus to exhibit the essence or the tattva of Hindu Dharma. It is a festival for Hindus to feel empowered. It is a festival to celebrate the Hindu heritage and the Hindu identity. It is a festival for Hindus to feel proud about themselves and to proudly put a bindi or tilak on their forehead. So that it is also, and I lost my slide. Hold on. So that it is also a festival where we are going to stand up with pride, and we are going to put on a bindi or tilak. But not only us, Utsoda, we want the world to know that yes, go ahead and connect the dots. Go ahead and connect the dots, because now the Hindu society, the Hindus have awakened. The Hindu society and Hindus are going to proudly put on a dot, a tilak, or a bindi and proclaim that they are Hindus. And the day when you would want to put on a bindi or a tilak and you would want to identify with the Hindus is not that far. And that, Utsoda, is where the Hindu Heritage Month and the World Bindi Day come together. Okay, that was my message essentially to the World Bindi Day, that this is the time when, if we do our jobs right, everyone would want to identify themselves with Hindus, and that we have to do as part of Hindu Heritage Month. I'm glad to say also that 15 state governors have now proclaimed October 2021 as Hindu Heritage Month. Okay, so very, very proud of that, and I think this is just the beginning. All right, so that with that, what's next?
So Ajay bhai, we have the Hindu. You can talk about the Hindu Charity Act of the week. I believe we should. We
Yeah,
can.
we do
We
have
should.
we do
I
have
have the Hindu Hater of the week.
why don't you go ahead and let's start. Let me start with the Hindu Seva Charity Act of the week, Utsoda, and let's. Hey, I got to have that music. Where is that music that we always play? Where is that music? Here we go. Utsoda.
मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितम्.
And Utsoda once again. Oh, here's Maya Durga wearing the Bindi and Tilak today. Welcome, Maya.
Maya is here today, and she decided to celebrate World Bindi Day.
All right.
And, so she joined me today. So she wanted to say hello. And
Namaste, Maya.
we have the Hindu Seva Charity of the week.
Yes, Hindu Seva Charity Act of the week, Utsoda, is Hindu Pact. We have. I say this because Utsoda, last week we talked about the Hindu artifacts in Afghanistan. And these these artifacts are under renewed pressure because of the Taliban takeover. We also talked about we talked about the efforts that we are doing on behalf of Kashmir. We also have Chingari as a project, which is giving a voice to Hindu girls who are abducted and forcibly converted and married off in Kashmir. And for all of these projects, which are being highlighted as part of the Hindu Heritage Month, we need to raise funds. And so I would urge people this time to go to hindupact.org/donate, hindupact.org/donate, and make your contribution.
Additionally, I want to say that please, if you are on Twitter, look up @Hindu Pact. Follow us on Twitter. You will see a daily update of all the things we are doing, and we are very active and prolific on Twitter and Instagram, and we do post regularly on the things we are doing. So please follow us on Twitter as well, and do support us. We have 4 major projects going on, and you can learn more about them, and you can please volunteer as well. I mean, we are looking for volunteers all the time. This is a pan-America effort. Actually, I would say it's a pan-global effort. And we focus primarily in America because we are in America. And please join us, please support us, help us. And with that, Ajay bhai, should we go to the next part of our...
Why don't we, I think you're reminding me that I have to play this wonderful music that I always play.
No, I'm not reminding you that.
Yes. So, please. I know you're too modest to ask, but
no.
I understand. So that I completely understand. I admire your modesty, but since you asked, I have to do this. So, which one would you like, Utsoda, today? Would you like a cheer, or would you like what kind of sound would you like?
No, I want the sad sound, because the next one, I don't know if it is in...
Okay, fine. You want a sad sound?
Yeah, because it's the Hindu Hater of the week.
Oh, it's a Hindu Hater. Oh, well, sometimes that can also be fun, but okay. All right. Here we go. The sad sound that Utsoda so cherishes.
No, I don't cherish it. So do you want me to share? Do you want me to share the Hindu Hater of the week? Is it in your slideshow?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to share the Hindu Hater of the week. Just give me 1 minute. Here.
We're officially still calling it the Hindu Phobe of the week, right?
Okay, officially calling it Hindu Phobe of the week. That's fine.
So that sometimes plays a little loose with his words, and so that we get start getting letters because Hindus are not supposed to use the word hate.
No, come on. I'm not loose with my words. Everything I say, I measure it very carefully. It might provoke some people, but that's always intentional.
A lot of people are unhappy because you're using the word, that Hindus don't like.
Okay, well, so this is the Hindu phobe of the week. I would say Hindu hater of the week.
What's the problem? That doesn't roll off your roll off your tongue.
Well, it's not an honest word. I don't think the word Hindu phobe in this particular case is at all honest, because the person actually has nothing to fear from Hindus. He genuinely hates Hindus. And this person is Mubin Ahmad Shah. He is a businessman and of Kashmiri origin, pro-Pakistani activist, millionaire, one of the minds behind the America-based website that is pro-Hizbul Mujahideen, a terrorist organization, a UN-designated terrorist organization called Stand with Kashmir. He was arrested by India, but was
and then let go because of his sister's political connections, right?
Because of the sister's political connection within the Biden administration, and was literally forced by the US administrations to release him. He goes on to say, at a time when native Kashmiri Hindus are being killed in the streets of Jammu and Kashmir, when Sikh school teachers who are also native of the Kashmir region for hundreds and hundreds of years are killed on the streets for celebrating India's Independence Day. When all these things happen, this individual, Mubin Ahmad Shah, a very prolific anti-Hindu, anti-Indian millionaire, I can put it that way, is encouraging people to boycott anybody in the Kashmir region, primarily Hindus and Sikhs, who support India. And he's creating more animosity and more hatred against Hindus. The word is not animosity, but actually hatred against Hindus at a time when Islamists are going around killing Hindus. If this person is not a Hindu hater of the week, I won't use the word phobe here, Hindu hater of the week, I don't know who is. And that's why I picked him as the Hindu hater of the week. It needs to be told. Another reason why I picked him is because he's very closely connected with many of the individuals who promoted the dismantled Global Hindutva Conference. He's also considered close to Athar Zia. He's considered close to Huma Dar, who was one of the key players in the dismantled Global Hindutva Conference in the West Coast, in the Bay Area, from UC Berkeley. So this individual has connections with a lot of other dismantled Global Hindutva crowd, and therefore, it shows the larger mindset, the larger inspiration, and to put it very plainly, pure hate against Hindus that many of these people practice and profess. So that's the Hindu hater of the week, Mubin Ahmad Shah.
And so what do we, so I have the Hindu news of the week. And Utsada, let me share this Hindu news of the week with you. And I hesitate to say good news or bad news. So we usually have a regular segment. I'm sorry, did I just I'm going to share this window with you, Utsada. And I want you to judge whether it's a good news or bad news. Utsada, you may recall that earlier this week, Pandora Papers were released. And the Pandora Papers detail the offshore accounts that a lot of politicians and business leaders and celebrities have set up to hide from their country's, deeds, country's tax laws rather. And so these Pandora Papers became very prominent. Hundreds of thousands of pages worth of documents were exposed as part of the Pandora paper. And one of the people highlighted in the Pandora Papers was a person who looted the artifacts, the Hindu artifacts from around the world. And this also the bad news is that all these artifacts were looted. The good news is that now we have documented evidence of all the artifacts that were looted, and so a lot of, not obviously not all, but a lot of artifacts that were looted, and how they ended up in large private collections. And they highlight the story of this person who has now passed away, Douglas Latchford. And he had a very nice clean image But beginning in 1970s, all he was doing was trafficking the Hindu artifacts from Khmer region, so in Cambodia. So that this is the kind of news that, it's a really really bad news, but at least now it's out in open. People and people can look at it. The governments can and should act on retrieving these artifacts and making sure that these looted artifacts, uh, you know, do not end up in private collections. These are treasures that belong to all of the world. Sada, your final thoughts?
No, it's, we have a history of being colonized. It's still happening in places like Cambodia, one of the greatest Hindu civilizational presentations. The Angkor Wat temple continues to stay in ruins. But hopefully we are coming out of this. More and more people are getting aware, and once we take ownership and pride in what belong to the Hindu civilization and actually to the whole world, but through us, through the civilization, we will be able to address all these issues quite well, and actually do justice to our ancestors, to put it plainly.
Absolutely. And Ustada, any final thought before we come to the end of today's program?
No, actually, I would have one single announcement to make. Today is the 75th anniversary of the Noakhali massacres. For those who don't know, Noakhali massacre was one of the worst presentations of human depravity and strategic thinking in the Indian subcontinent against Hindus. And the reason I say that it is because this location was chosen as a test case of how to cleanse Hindus from what was then going to become Pakistan eventually. And so I have a small screen share. I will share the show. My part of the show will start, Ajay, if you can approve it.
Yeah, all ready to go.
In the next half an hour. Exactly in next half an hour. Right now it is 12:30 in the afternoon on the East Coast in America. You can see my name. I'm the last speaker on Noakhali genocide by Ishitwa, and please join us. You can go to hindugenocide.com/Noakhali and register still if you are not already there. And I'll be discussing more about one of the most tragic periods and events of the Indian subcontinent that I would say solidified the belief amongst many Islamists that Hindus can be bullied and hand twisted to get what you want out of them. And the outcome of that we can still see today as late as yesterday. So that was my point, and I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Utsada. I want to make an announcement that next week is the 75th episode of the Hindu Lounge. And we are still planning how the 75th episode would look like. We are fortunate that it's during the Hindu Heritage Month, and I'm really looking forward to it. So that if you ask me today what it's going to be like, I can't answer it, but we will be. It will. I want to assure our viewers that it will have a lot more planning than our weekly shows. That's not saying much, but just saying that it will be much more planned, and we hope to bring up a nice show to you. It is our 75th episode. When we started, we didn't know how far we were going to go. We said we'll just keep going and going and going till we stop, and it is now number 75. With that, Utsoda, I want to bring a close to today's Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, VHPA. As always, is Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsoda is the executive director of Hindu Pact. And I am Adesha. I am the president of World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA, and convener of Hindu Pact. We come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, and other regional and local times around the world. And if you miss us, you can go to YouTube, or you can go to Facebook, or you can go to Twitter and watch the entire show. And we are really thankful for you for spending an hour and a half of your time with us, as many of you do every single week. And we look forward to seeing you on our 75th episode next week. And before we go, finally, as always, we have a very special music that we played in the beginning of the show and are going to play it again. It is the music that was made just for this episode of Hindu Lounge. It is by a group called Decibel. They're an amazing group. They all of the tunes that they're creating for us are based on various ragas, and we cannot thank them enough. We profusely thank them from the bottom of our hearts. And as we close the show, please stay tuned and listen to the special music that was created by Decibel for episode number 74 of Hindu Lounge. And with that, thank you for joining and namaste. And here is the music by Decibel. And I thought Maya was going to come and say bye to us.
Maya Durga went upstairs to have some lunch. So
Ah, all right. So here we go with the music.
Thank you.